Hello and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten and with me is Leo Sun, and we're just going to head right into it and not even really talk about the Wolves to kick it off here because holy mother of God, the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. And there's a couple other outgoing parts to make it all work. Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris head to the Lakers. Max Christie and a Laker first-round pick head to the Mavericks. And the Jazz and Danny Ainge kind of swoop in and grab Jalen Hood-Schifino and a couple second-round picks to make the salaries work. This is not just the most surprising trade in recent memory. It's probably the most surprising trade in NBA history. And it's up there in terms of just pure surprise of any sports thing, even on court, on field, in the boxing ring. Like, I can't even think of like a surprise bigger than the Mavs trading Luka. I mean, they just got off a finals run where they just murdered the Wolves in the game 2 shot is an all-timer over Gobert, and they trade Luka Doncic allegedly because of weight issues or because of conditioning issues. Like, Luka apparently did not request a trade. They didn't like canvass the league. They just trade Luka for a solid player, Anthony Davis. But you have to imagine it could have gotten so much more. I mean, how did they not get the Lakers 2031 pick? Why didn't they get all the Lakers available first? Why are the Jazz receiving second round picks and not the Mavs? It's just insane. I don't even know what to say. Other than, I mean, this is just a catastrophic trade for the Mavericks. I think this is going to haunt them. I don't understand. Like, the reporting is that this is a bet against Luka Doncic. The Mavs have bet against Luka Doncic. Good freaking luck with that. Because we'll talk about the ramifications, how it relates to the Wolves, but I mean, I don't understand this from Dallas's point of view, and this just, to me, is a grand slam player that ends up in the Lakers' lap, and no doubt you take this, whether even if Luka isn't healthy this year or whatever, because the Lakers were headed towards nothingness for a long time with no picks, their players aging out, and now they're just giving Luka Doncic on a silver platter, and all of that changes for the next decade. Leo, I know you're a Laker hater, coming from Northern California. Just what are your thoughts on what I said, the trade, whatever you got?
Ryan, just when you thought things couldn't get any worse with the nightmarish month of January 2025 that we've had, February rolls around, and the Timberwolves play a game against another team. We don't know what happened there. But then my most despised sports franchise of all time just pulled off perhaps the greatest heist in modern sports history. First, we have to talk about, for those of you who have not listened to the pod before and don't know my history, like as Ryan said, I'm from Northern California, grew up a Kings and Timberwolves fans, and so again, the Lakers are public enemy number one to me. Now, that being said, like, we have to talk about the Lakers and their big market privilege, okay? Think about the following players: Wilt, Kareem, Shaq, Pau Gasol, LeBron, AD, and now Luka. All 7 of these players are all first ballot Hall of Fame players that Lakers have added to their franchises in their prime for minimal return. If you go back and look at every single one of these trades, what they gave up to get these players is not close in return, right? So yet, with myself living in the Southern California area, amongst Lakerdesians in SoCal, they've refused to accept and acknowledge this privilege. And so what is Laker do? Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Let me interject in here quick. Yeah. And you mentioned the other events that have happened in January, and I found a very funny tweet from Richard Normal on Twitter that kind of goes exactly what you're saying. A key element of fascism is making it appear that the entire world's organized against your group, when in fact you are the most advantageous and powerful position in society. So you'd assume that would be about whatever is going on in politics, right? The tweet ends, the Los Angeles Lakers are a textbook example of this. This is a tweet from 2023, and it perfectly encapsulates what exactly has gone on in the Lakers. I'm sorry to interject. I had to get that in there.
No,
Please
absolutely.
continue.
I mean, no, that follows exactly what I'm about to say. Is that living among Laker Desians in SoCal, like they refuse to accept that privilege, right, that they're getting. And so if you're asking what's a Laker Desian, if you ever watched a Game of Zones kind of spin off that Bleacher Report did, that they had these like Kobe Desians where they were like, they're not Laker fans, they're Kobe fans, right? So there's these Laker fans that aren't really fans of basketball. And so I have this pickup basketball group of guys that are mostly in their 30s or later, and most of them are Laker fans, and they refuse to accept any non-drafted superstars to their team. So like they're complaining about, oh, AD's always hurt, man, he sucks, we should get rid of him. Man, LeBron whines so much, I can't wait until LeBron isn't on the Lakers anymore. And then now that they got Luka Doncic, well, get ready to learn Luka, buddy, because if you're thinking about being hurt or whining too much, they have something that they're gonna have to get used to. Now, in my group chat with these guys, there were literal statement text messages that they said Luka is not a top 5 player in the league. They said Luka is more comparable to Trae Young than any other player in the NBA. They said that Luka only won 20% of his finals games. You're going to have to pray for me because I'm going to have to listen to these people complain about Luka as they make deep playoff runs for the next 10 years. These are people I go play basketball with every week that I don't know if I can go anymore. These are people I have to go to work with every day that are saying like, hey, JJ Redick really turned the Lakers around. He went and got Luka, huh? It's like, yep, that's what happened. So yeah, man, it's been pretty terrible for me. And as you said, it's one of those things. I listened to the No Dunks, the Athletics No Dunks podcast, and they did an emergency pod. And I think it was really funny is that they said that this is a type of trade that you can literally see happening in a bar between Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka, where they're just out having drinks, and they're like, you know what would be kind of crazy, man? Like, what if I traded this player to you? And then like Rob is totally taking Nico for a ride. He's like pretending to drink when he's clearly like still on his first drink of the night while Nico's hammered. And then like once they decide on the deal, it's like, hey, you know what? We should tell Shams. One of us should text Shams and tell him the news. And that's why Shams is like, what the hell? Like, I get this is real, guys. Like, this is coming from them. So yeah, this is just such a weird, like, bizarro on a quaint Saturday night. Almost all the games are over. Everyone's getting ready to go to bed, and this just drops out of nowhere, man.
Yeah, it's a mammoth trade that it's going to be a sliding doors moment probably for a lot. I mean, just bigger picture. So from Dallas's point of view, a couple years ago, they were in a really tough spot. They lost Brunson. They traded away Porzingis. They had made this kind of upstart Western Conference Finals run, but they had to tank out to keep their pick, which ended up becoming Lively and kind of saved this whole thing. They traded for Kyrie, and in the midst of was Kyrie's NBA career kind of fizzling out due to off-court issues, and they figured it all out. They bring in Grant what's his name? Grant Williams.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. They figured it all out. They got it fixed. They made this finals run, including beating our Timberwolves. And now just after, I mean, Luka's last game is with the Mavs. His last signature playoff moment with the Mavs is a step back over Rudy, and his last game ever with the Mavs is getting hurt on Christmas Day against the Wolves.
Ryan, I have to say this. Is it safe to say that the Wolves ended Luka's career in Dallas?
The floor did.
I mean, you know, all I'm saying is that Luka might have taken us out of the playoffs last year, but the last game he ever played in a Mavericks uniform was in a loss to us. I'm gonna just put that out there.
One thing I know is that cute video where the Mavs staffer takes a beer away from him after Game 5 of the West Finals is a lot less funny now, isn't it? The cat trade, Mavs fans making fun of that. That's a whole lot less funny now, isn't it? I will give some empathy. There was a good piece in Mavs Moneyball, the SB Nation site for the Mavs. And the writer just kind of, I gotta make sure I get this person's name right. Brent had a good line. It was, this is awful. It doesn't just hurt. It makes you question why you care and if you should keep caring about this team, about sports. And that for me is like the encapsulation of it. I just have to believe this is what Mavs fans are feeling. It's not just, I mean, it's one thing to dislike the basketball trade of it all. And we went through on a much, much, much smaller scale with Cat. You can, and we still are debating like the Cat trade of it all, the actual basketball reasons for it. But ultimately, as a fan, even if it makes sense basketball wise, and this Luka trade surely doesn't yet or ever, it still just hurts that it brings it like, why do I do this? Why do I put any emotional energy into this? If like, what are we building toward? Like, it brings in these, you go and get existential dread downward spiral of why again, with the cat trade, some of that happened. I think for a lot of us, it sucked. But ultimately, I think everyone, you can move past it because it wasn't Ant that got traded. We still have Ant. The path forward for the Wolves was always clear. And I don't know what the path forward for the Mavs is. I like their team, honestly. Kyrie and AD and their centers and Washington and Clay. Like, I think their team is solid. I don't know. They are a game and a half behind the Wolves with a slightly harder schedule. Like, they could catch the Wolves. I would probably guess not, just in the sense of their team is lesser now and they gotta kind of revamp on the fly here. But from a big picture sense, they're out of first round picks other than this Lakers pick. And while their team is solid, will be good. I mean, Kyrie and AD are a solid top two players. That's better than the average team has. But like, it just feels like a team that's now gonna be stuck and eventually going to be bad. And I don't understand why you would try. I get the conditioning stuff, but like, I don't understand. Like, the last thing I would do is trade Luka Doncic, and even if I decided that was what was needed to do, I would be canvassing the league. Because to me, trading Luka for, like, if for whatever reason this was the best trade, I'd be looking to flip AD into really to bust it open and be done. Because you're never gonna. Luka is like a once in a generation type player. There are, in the last, I mean, the like, think about the Wolves. I mean, we hope Ant gets to that level, but the Wolves haven't had a player that good since KG. Like, half the teams in the league like haven't had a team that, other than the Lakers, like you said, get everyone they want. Like, these players don't fall on trees. And the other aspect of this from the Mavs point of view is, if Cuban is still the controlling owner, there's no way this happens. Right. There's just absolutely no way this happens. And you wonder, I don't know, the Adelscenes are big Trump people. They were a big reason Trump got elected. They donated a lot of money to him. It feels weird to connect those dots. I don't know why that feels connected, but it does. Maybe that's my own bias. But for the ownership to sign off, Cuban doesn't. Cuban flatly would not sign off on this. And it brings into question why he sells in the first place, because maybe he regrets it now because it leads to that. I don't know. There's so much going on. But my biggest thing is, no matter what, I thought the Mavs GM had a terrible press conference today. The basketball reasoning I'm searching for, and I can't find it.
If Mark Cuban was still the owner right now, he would be at Luka Doncic's home with a chair pushed up against it, from what he learned in the DeAndre Jordan negotiations.
You wouldn't even need to.
Right?
You wouldn't need to. You'd just say no.
Yeah, I mean, he's the ultimate like decision maker on this, right? And so that's really tough. I mean, I could go in on the Mavs' new ownership as well, but that, I feel like, is a different pod. But yeah, I mean, this is just something I actually, like, out of just kind of curiosity, I tuned into the Cavs Mavericks game. They played around noon Pacific time, so around early afternoon Central time today, and they were down, I believe it was 31 points after one quarter,
50-19 after their GM said, I get they don't have every player, so this isn't entirely fair.
Right.
Their GM comes out and says, defense wins championships. We want to be defense. In the first quarter without Luka, they give up 50 points. Again, that's not fair because they don't have all their players, and certainly
right.
It's not. It's the idea that they got blown out is not surprising, but it's still the karma of it is pretty funny.
Yeah, the existential dread that you see on the players on the bench, just kind of staring off into space, like, wait, so AD and Kyrie is going to turn us into a championship win now team? I totally understand, like, the pieces of it, and like you said, there's still solid pieces there, but are they beating the Thunder? Are they making it out of this even the second round this year? There's a lot of pieces to figure out there right now, and I'm not the biggest believer in Jason Kidd as a head coach. I know he's had a good run so far right now with the Mavs, but I don't see him being able to engineer this with less than half the season left to be able to. All right, no training camp, middle of the season trade. AD still hurt, so it's not like he's coming in today and it's like he's sending him. He's emailing him the playbook probably right now. I mean, there's a lot of things to figure out. So that's going to take time. I mean, this isn't adding just a PJ Washington and a Daniel Gafford. You're fundamentally changing the foundation of this team, of what it was built around. All those players that are on the Mavs, Kyrie included, were there to fit with Luka. And so you're changing that up and you're taking that key piece out and putting it with, yes, another great player, but a player that's not built to fit that team right now. So again, it's just so funny. You talk about that press conference. Nico Harrison said, him and Jason Kidd, like, oh, what is the future to me? The future is 3 to 5 years or something like that. Like, why would you say that?
Yeah.
That they're gonna bury, in 10 years, if not, the fans will bury him or whatever, they'll bury themselves, which is like that is like ultimate buyer's remorse. That is, as I put out on Blue Sky, this is like if an NBA owner sold their team that's worth $3.3 billion for $1.5 billion and has a little bit of buyer's remorse, and now they're saying that it's because they're worried their franchise player eats too much Popeyes. Okay, that's kind of the equivalent of what's going on right here. Of how much you're like, oh shoot, I don't think making a call with like literally no one else in the front office knew about this other than just between him and Rob Pelinka. Like, that doesn't seem like great decision-making skills. So yeah.
If what has been reported is all that it is, and there's no further information that's come out, and it was just the Nico Harrison, the Mavs general manager, deciding that they didn't want to be a Mavericks, or they didn't want it to be a Luka Doncic led team. Mark Stein said that on the DLLS Mavs podcast, that they do not want to be a Luka-centric team. If that's what it is, and it's not ownership meddling, it's just that is a decision to me that is likely or maybe certainly going to cost him his career. I mean, his job and his career. And so to me, like, there's only like, it's almost like it had to have been ownership meddling, and he's just trying to save face for his organization because that's all he can do. But that's not what's been reported. What has been reported is that he brought this idea to Mavs ownership and they signed off on it. So there's so many questions to ask. If we want to dive into like the actual basketball of it all and how it affects the Wolves, I don't think the ceiling of that Mavs team is obviously significantly lower. Like when I remember, even now, the teams I would be afraid of in the West before today or before yesterday were OKC, Denver, and Dallas. I don't really care about the regular season records. To me, those are the best teams on paper. And now one of those teams gets taken off the board in Dallas because, like I said, I still think they're a solid team. From a playoff perspective, I don't think those pieces fit. The Lively and Gafford, to me, were so good because of Luka and him being able to find them. And it's not that to say they're bad pieces now, but the fit with those two guys next to AD is not great. And to me, I know he doesn't want to play center, but that is where Anthony Davis is most valuable. Playing center, guarding the rim, and spacing the floor. I know his 3-point shot is up and down, but he's certainly he's a floor spacer. He's one of those bigs that, especially against the Timberwolves, makes every single mid-range shot that he takes, which he's very good at that. And so they have one option offensively as far as like true shot creation. That's Kyrie. Is Kyrie back to being a wild card now? There's just so many questions, and maybe those were always going to be questions for Dallas, but so many of those were answered by having Luka flipping Doncic on your team, and you traded him. I just like, I would understand if their worries about him and his conditioning and his whatever are legit, and his injury history. If those, I'm sure they are. I mean, they have to be. But like the list of steps I would do to try to remedy that situation, there are 1,000 things before I would get to trading him. And if you got to that last step of trading him, I wouldn't do it in the dark. And I
Right.
get that they're trying to, if Luka gets wind of them trying to trade him, he'd request a trade and then your value is gone. I just think like you gave the burglar your wallet so he couldn't steal it. You gave up all the leverage so you couldn't lose the leverage. Like if you didn't get, this is the trade you would have gotten if Luka requested a trade. You would have gotten AD and a pick. You could have gotten the world from San Antonio. You could have gotten the world from Oklahoma City. Like, I don't do we want to talk about this? If the Mavs had offered Luka Doncic for Anthony Edwards, what do you say?
Don't do that, right? I can't do that. But I get your point. I get your point. Where
let me tell you this: that's not a quick hang up.
Right. That's a conversation.
I don't. That kind of goes back to like the fan in me says no because I'm connected to Anthony Edwards and Doncic stole our hearts last year, but like they could have theoretically gotten Anthony Edwards, which to me is a lot more valuable than AD in a pick. So like, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but like, I mean, they could have let's look up Bill Simmons' trade value column. Okay, you can't get Ant. Go to the next person. You could have like that. Like you're not going to have to go far down his theoretical list to find a better value than AD. Now AD was not far below Ant, so maybe they did good there. But like,
Ryan, I'm gonna have to go down this rabbit hole though, and because as many of us have been doing, we've been trying to wonder why did the Mavericks do this? And so my conspiracy that I put out there is, for the longest time, it was the worst kept secret, is that Kyrie wanted to play in LA, or LA wanted Kyrie, et cetera, et cetera. Like that was part of the thing, right? Kyrie's gonna go to LA, join LeBron and AD in LA, and that was gonna be great. Now that obviously didn't work out. Kyrie ended up, he's in Dallas and he seems to be doing okay there. He's not courting LA anymore. That maybe he's not on the table anymore for the Mavs, that they're not offering that. And so Kyrie, LeBron, and AD are all represented by Clutch, if I remember correctly. And so obviously everyone knows that AD and LeBron have their little, best friend, forever type of relationship. And so with AD going there, what if Rob Pelinka said, hey, we want Kyrie, and Nico Harrison says, no, we can't give you Kyrie, but we'll trade you Luka for LeBron and AD. And he's like, okay, well, that obviously doesn't work. That wouldn't work under this cap, whatever. It's like, okay, well, how can we make it work? Okay, you know what? We're all under Clutch. LeBron says that he will leave this summer and sign up whatever contracts to make it work in Dallas. You give us Luka, we'll give you AD right now. And then so Kyrie, LeBron, AD suit up for Dallas. And in return was for Luka. Now, again, this is a conspiracy, right? But that would be the only way that I can say that makes sense. Now, would I trade LeBron and AD for Luka? Yeah, probably. No. I probably would. But
from the Lakers, if that's theoretically on the board, like if you had certainties, under the table certainties that you could, like LeBron, I still wouldn't do it from the Mavs perspective.
Right. Exactly. I wouldn't either. But it would make a little bit more sense in AD and a pick. And let's, give Minnesota some love, Max Christie. Okay.
Them not getting the second Lakers pick is just insane.
So anyways, all that to say is that, like, I don't know if we'll ever know what happened. I have a feeling we probably will by this summer. There's no way that there's this huge of news is ever going to just go like, I guess we'll just never know. We'll know at some point. And until then, it's just, I'm still kind of blindsided by this, and it upsets me personally because of how I feel about the Lakers. But, they're not built to win right now either. So, at least we don't really have to deal with that as much for now. But things can turn around very quickly when you have one of the best players in the entire association who's in his prime playing in LA, who wants to play with that. I guess a lot of people.
Yeah, we'll move on to the Lakers side of it here. But my last thoughts on this is that I think there's a good chance, and maybe even a likely chance, that this goes down as one of the worst trades in all of sports history. We're kind of living through a couple of them. The Celtics just won a title based on one of the worst trades in NBA history, trading Pierce and Garnett for all the Brooklyn picks that became Tatum and Brown, and they won a title. The other one would be Paul George for Shea and a bunch of picks, and one of the picks has already turned into Jalen Williams, a first-time All-Star this year, and Shea is one of the best, 5 is even too high of a number, players in the NBA. He's going to either win MVP or finish runner-up. So there's already 2 awful trades. People want to denigrate the 2 recent trades the Wolves made in Gobert and Towns. Those don't even kind of scratch the list of teams that it is insane that the 2 teams that were in the Western Conference Finals have now, within a few months, 9 months of that Western Conference Finals, have both blown up their teams. That's insane. Yeah. But yeah, moving on to the Lakers aspect of it, I mean, it's just a home run. Like, it's, like you said, I think it kind of hurts them in the immediate short term because I'm not sure when Luka's going to be back. Those conditioning issues and injury issues that Dallas worried about, maybe we would argue they're overstated, but they are, in a sense, are real. That I'm not sure how much he's going to play down the stretch of the season. The Lakers almost certainly have another trade in them because they need a center. They could trade that 2031 pick. They could they don't even need, they just need anything. Like, their starting center right now is Jackson Hayes or LeBron, maybe. Like, so I think in the regular season, short term, I think this is going to help out the Wolves. There's a good chance that the Lakers kind of start losing some games in the short term. I don't know when Luka's coming back. Maybe Dallas surges up. I still kind of dubious on that. So there's a good chance the Wolves kind of stay in front of Dallas and kind of leapfrog the Lakers, which the goal should be to get out of the play-in for the Wolves. And I still think that either likely or certainly possible. The 4 seed, they're only 3 games back of that. The top 3 is kind of as Memphis and Houston continue to win are kind of the idea of that's fading. But in the immediate short term, and I even think in the long term, I think this helps the Wolves because, like, the Mavs are not in your path anymore, in my opinion. The team that presented the worst matchup for you is now gone. This kind of is how I'm sure Denver felt when the Wolves traded Cat. Their main kind of obstacle is now, or bad matchup is now gone. Yeah, it certainly saves the Lakers from, like, but like you said, I don't think their team this year, I don't think is championship contending worthy. And obviously they don't give 2 flying bleeps about that they'll deal with that later. Because this just saves their franchise. Maybe that's something like this was always going to come. If it wasn't going to be Luka, it was going to be XYZ player. And they're probably going to get XYZ player at some point here. Because people are going to keep wanting to go to LA. They're probably going to have a bunch of cap space and whatever. So, like, the Lakers are going to be really good for a long time, probably, with Luka. But also the Mavs are going to fade. So, like, in the big picture sense of that, it is what it is. I don't think it's something to really fret on from a Wolves perspective, and it might give them a little bit of help in the short term. But yeah, do you want to hate on the the Lakers some more before we move on to your other team?
It just sucks. It sucks because, you know, they did everything that you weren't supposed to do in terms of building a future for your team. You know, they sold out all their young players that went on to become all-stars or all-NBA players. They sold out on picks. They sold out on, their young talent that they had, such as, your Alex Caruso's or whatever, to go get Russell Westbrook.
Kyle
Kuzma. Right. That was the way he played. The other day. But, so they sent all these things out, and it's the mortgage their future, and they got the 2020 bubble ring out of it. And so that's, I would say most teams would do that. They would take that trade, let me get that one championship. And if I have to mortgage a bit of my future, then so be it. And so for the longest time, you have this huge dark cloud over the Lakers. Like, well, LeBron's only getting older and AD's only getting older and they're getting more injury prone. And, they have no path forward really here. They have a couple of their picks, but that's about it. And then now all of a sudden they get this get out of jail free card now where they just are gifted one of the best players in the NBA who's entering his prime, if not in his prime, just about to start his prime right now. And so, that's just the way it goes, right? I mean, that's the way that a lot of there are Laker friends of mine that are Laker fans have, like, that's why it's LA and that's why we're the Lakers, because we always win. We always get what we want. And it's so defeating to kind of see that because it's like, okay, well, what does it matter? We have to try so hard. How many first round, number 1 overall picks the Timberwolves have to get before they strike gold in Anthony Edwards, right? How many losing seasons of being one of the worst records in the NBA do we have to go through before we get that? While they just, you know what, Lakers do everything the wrong way, yet they still get gifted one of the best players in the NBA. It's disappointing. It's a little bit defeating.
Yep. I think it's not fair, if you want to use that word. Shout out to my mom. She hated when I was a kid, and me and my brother would say life isn't fair. But it's not. It's objectively not. And it never was.
Right.
So it's like from a Wolves perspective, you can either sit here and cry about it, or even a Laker hater's perspective, or you can root on your team to go beat them.
Right.
And it's like you got Luka Doncic, but we got Jaden McDaniels. So
That's right, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, but it's just it's inconceivable. Yeah, I do feel for the Mavs fans because it's just it had to have torn your heart out. I mean, we can touch on this quick. If the Wolves had done this trade, they theoretically, I mean, there was nothing stopping them from doing basically the same trade, which they never would. But like, if this I mean, it'd just be I can't imagine a catastrophic version of this trade for the Wolves. But
I saw out there it was like if you traded Anthony Edwards for Joel Embiid, like as of current.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not
just
that
Anthony
far
Davis. Like,
yeah.
It's just not. Yeah, I don't even think we hit on that enough, and we'll see how it plays out. But it's just hard to envision how it plays out well for the Mavericks. But there's another trade. Your hometown team here, the Sacramento Kings, were kind of forced into a box to trade De'Aaron Fox. Excuse the pun there, but De'Aaron Fox traded to the San Antonio Spurs to link up with Victor Wembanyama. That is a scary thought. This is probably the one long term that should probably more scare the Wolves fans here, because now the Spurs have a second very high quality player to pair with their demon freak there. The Spurs get De'Aaron Fox and old buddy for us, Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings get Zach LaVine from the Bulls. Again, another old friend there. Heads to the Kings to pair up with DeMar DeRozan. It'll be interesting to see if LaVine and DeRozan work together. I can't imagine that there's any sample size that would say otherwise on that one. Kings also get Sidi Sissoko and 3 first-round picks. Kind of what those picks are kind of interesting. A 2025 Charlotte pick that's protected 1-14, so that will not convey, and that'll turn into 2 second-round picks. A 2027 Spurs first-round pick unprotected. Anything can happen, but I don't expect the Spurs to be bad in 2 seasons, especially not with De'Aaron Fox and Wembanyama. And then probably the third first-round pick they get is a 2031 Timberwolves pick that the Wolves traded for Rob Dillingham. So that pick is already out the door from Sacramento, and so your Kings buddies will be rooting against the Wolves in 6 seasons here. And then they also get 3 second-round picks. The Bulls get basically nothing for Zach LaVine. So the Bulls continue to be the post-Jordan Bulls here. Probably the post-Tibbs Bulls is probably more fair to them. But they get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter. So some interesting role players there potentially. And then they get their own 2025 pick back. But I believe that was already protected 1-10. So they just get it back if it doesn't land in the top 10. So that's a nothing burger. They basically got Collins, Trey Jones, and Huerter, so nothing. They just get out from under LaVine's contract, and the Kings pick it up. I thought the Kings did okay. They were backed into a corner. LaVine in 3 picks, even if 2 of them aren't great, is probably the best you were going to do. You got more picks than the Mavs got. Obviously, you'd take AD over LaVine all day, but what's kind of the vibes with your Kings buddies there, and what did you think about the trade that they were not forced to make, but kind of they did the best they could?
Oh boy, we're gonna have to pour one out here for my old Sacktown boys, the 916. It's a tough day for them. I mean, De'Aaron Fox was one of those guys. He was one of those Karl Anthony Towns type franchise players where, he maybe wasn't a top 10 player, maybe top 20 in his prime. But he's a player that wanted to build it there. He wanted to build it in Sacramento. He wanted to see Sacramento win, and he stuck out a lot of really, really crappy seasons and crappy coaches and crappy general managers. And unfortunately, they're, time is a flat circle over there. They're doing it again. At one point they had, this is perhaps the saddest wrinkle is that they had De'Aaron Fox, who is young and upcoming, and they had the chance to draft Luka Doncic number 2. And they're like, you know what? we don't want to pair Luka with De'Aaron. We want to take the ball out of De'Aaron's hands. And Vlade Divac, who's the GM or in the front office at the time, was like, nah, we're not taking Luka. And instead, they tread along. They continue to extend their playoff drought, and then they
Shout
draft
out Marvin Bagley.
Shout out Marvin Bagley, who did not play in the Wizards game, which I don't know anything Wizards related that's going on right now or currently. But the Kings go on and they strike gold and they draft Tyrese Halliburton. Their agent really works the magic to get him to Sacramento, and he also, just like De'Aaron Fox, wanted to build in Sacramento. Looked great his rookie year, and they're like, you know what? We don't want to take the ball out of De'Aaron Fox's hands. We really feel like we want to roll with De'Aaron, so we're gonna go ahead and trade Halliburton for a win now move to get Sabonis, and that's where we got to today. And so now they no longer have De'Aaron Fox. And now this didn't happen out of nowhere. De'Aaron Fox and his agent, their relationship has deteriorated over the last year or so with the Kings. They had the Beam team year, and that was fun. And things gradually eroded to where they are now. And you could say backed them into a corner, but it was also one of those things where they kind of gave them the shovel to dig themselves into the grave there. So yeah, it sucks because they wanted a young player back. They wanted to be able to have a player that maybe get a piece that can compete, but also a young player back, and they did not get a young player back. They got Zach LaVine back, who again, we all love Zach, but 90s basketball is probably pumped to watch DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, and Zach LaVine shoot 2-point jump shots for the time being going forward for them. It's a little bit almost like the Phoenix Suns, like, hey, I want the Phoenix Suns, and Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and KD. But it's like, no, we have the Phoenix Suns at home, and it's Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Malik Monk here. So I don't really know. They don't have a direction over. The fan base is pretty crushed because obviously the connection they have with De'Aaron, he's big in the community over there. Their whole family, again, I'm sure it's hard for them. But the fans are also just like, dude, they're over it. They're over their GM. They're over the front office. Like, this team, Zach LaVine, DeMar, and Sabonis is not going to lead the Kings even past the first round. And that's not even me trying to be funny or to make fun of them or to hate on them. That's just the facts. Like, that is not a team that is going to play any defense at all. That's not a team that is going to play modern basketball enough to the point where they can outshoot some of these higher seeds. And yeah, it's tough because you felt like the feelings were getting better after they had wrongly terminated Mike Brown and instead hired Doug Christie, and they take the Kings on this little streak. And then just as you thought things were going to get good, that good vibes last for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden they're back where they are. So I feel bad for them. But again, when it comes down to it, that's another team you can, not that they were really competing with the Wolves, but another team you can kind of cross off for a little bit now and not really have to worry about.
Yeah, I agree. It's another trade that probably helps out the Wolves in the short term, in the sense of I don't think the Kings are 2.5 back. I mean, the Wolves are just a better team than this version of the Sacramento Kings. The Wolves have an easier schedule. The Wolves have more home games. If the Kings catch the Wolves, it's not. Then the Wolves have bigger issues going on because they should be able to run away from the Kings, and certainly the Spurs get better. But in what's left, 40% of the season here, the Wolves have a 4.5 game cushion. It's just like, the Spurs certainly get better. You'd probably expect them to sneak into that play-in tournament. So maybe that's a part where you kind of get scared of the Spurs if the Wolves are in excuse me, the play-in tournament. That's a potential matchup, I guess. But ultimately, the Wolves have their sights set on the top 6. And I don't think the Spurs are going to be a team this year that will contend for that. But holy cow, next year when they kind of have an offseason to put some more vets around and role players around that team, because Fox and Wembanyama is just terribly scary. And I think like that's, of the stuff we've talked about that Wolves related, that is the most troubling, is that, and maybe it was always this was probably always going to happen. Maybe not. It could have been any player, that the Spurs are here. They will be making the playoffs next season, if not this season, and they're not going anywhere. And so that's the main team that you go, okay, like the Thunder are obviously there, the Nuggets are still there, and now here come the Spurs. And you still have Houston and Memphis. So like, that's the big thing. My question for like your Kings people would be, it's easy to look back in hindsight, but like the Halliburton trade, from the minute it happened, just thought it was bad. Not, I mean, in a sense, similar to Luka, where you just like, it's a fairly similar trade, just on a much, much, much smaller scale. But like, I just thought Halliburton's a guy that you just don't trade. And my question would be, was it worth it? Because I know they broke their playoff streak and they had great seasons, and I'm sure if I asked them that during the peak of Light the Beam, they would be like, "What are you talking about? This is awesome." And so the Wolves have almost had two similar trades. Like the Wolves needed Jimmy Butler to break their playoff streak, and that crashed and burned. And the Wolves needed Rudy Gobert to win a playoff game or playoff series, and that hasn't crashed and burned. But the Wolves have a lot of picks out the door now because of that trade, and both trades, I think, in the big picture, have worked out fine for the Wolves. The Wolves were able to flip Jimmy for Rocco, and that's turned into a lot of value for them since. And the Wolves made the Western Conference Finals with Rudy, but I just they didn't get a playoff series win, and now they're staring at if they just make this trade, not this trade, but they were never going to trade Fox, but if they just keep Halliburton, I don't know. My question would be, was it worth it? To break the playoff drought, but now you kind of you kneecapped yourself, the ceiling of what that team could have been.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I would say that they, Light the Beam year would have 100%, I would say 99.9% of the fans would say it was worth it had they finished off the Warriors in that Game 7 of the first round. The fact that they didn't, that's okay, well, yeah, it was fun. We really took it to the Warriors, but we didn't end up getting a playoff series win out of it. And then now, again, like you said, they're kneecapped for the foreseeable future now where, yeah, I would say that's probably more split 50-50, where, half the fans have probably been around a little bit longer, just like us Wolves fans, we were there for the drought for so long where, we were like, yeah, that was worth it. But the other fan base where, maybe they weren't here as long, was like, no, why would that just ending a playoff drought be worth just mortgaging our future there? So I do want to say just my one last thing about the Spurs is that they got rid of Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and was there any other players? Like City Sissoko, right? Like a two-way player, a G League guy. They still have Stephon Castle, which is an extremely bright, young, very young point guard. We all knew the Chris Paul thing there was just like a bridge thing, and now he could really, truly be a bridge thing. He's still there, actually, right? And so they're super deep at that spot now. They're going to get quality play, out of that position now. And De'Aaron Fox, unlike AD, is completely healthy right now, so that's not an issue. And they still have players like Devin Vassell, who's having an extremely good development in his career right now. He is a dangerous jump shooter. And then you also still have those intriguing guys like Jeremy Sohan. I mean, that's a player that a young team could be yeah, you're not going to build around him, but that'd be kind of nice as a pick, like a young Jeremy. So, they didn't lose any of their rotation guys, really. I mean, Zach Collins, they don't give a crap about him. And Trey Jones, Trey Jones has been buried on the depth chart for a while now. And so, and even then, it's not like he's a bright, young, promising, player. He's been around the league for a couple of years. So yeah, the Spurs, that is just, masterclass. Clutch has been busy this weekend. Clutch has been busy. We could say that.
I just wonder if, and I'm sure the Kings fans are just is it time to blow it up? And it's easy. It's easy 10,000 feet away to say, well, yeah, your team wasn't good enough with Fox. Now it certainly isn't good enough without him. Do you trade Sabonis? We already saw LaVine and DeRozan don't have much value. You could probably, what is Monk's value? I don't know where you go.
Yeah. Is this a set? How do you call this? Because we have the Timberwolves, right? The Timberwolves and Thibs is there. But then now, was this a Sacramento Bulls, right? They have DeMar and LaVine. Do they go try and acquire Lonzo Ball and just try and run it back with that team? I don't know what exactly is going on over there, but
it is reminiscent of a couple years ago, that Bulls team, where it's if everything goes right, you make the playoffs, maybe. But yeah, I just don't know where they still. Yeah.
They feel no needs. They desperately need a point guard now. Even Jordan McLaughlin is off in that trade too. He's no longer on the Kings anymore either. He's also on the Spurs. So that's another reason for us to quietly root for the Spurs. If you have a soft spot for Wemby like I do. But yeah, they don't have a point guard now. They have no depth there. And then they also have been, the thing they've been needing for the longest time is a true five, a rim protecting defensive vertical threat five, and they have refused to add that. And they still have not answered that. They add it with another position who plays a similar role to what they have the most of, which is jump shooting. So I don't. It doesn't. Yeah. Keegan Murray, Zach LaVine, Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, these are all jump shooty type players. So I don't. Yeah, it's a really, really rough time for the Kings.
Well, kind of looking at the Wolves. The Wolves' next game is against the Sacramento Kings. they will be severely shorthanded. The guys that LaVine and Sissoko will not be playing in this game. Even like there isn't even like if the game was Tuesday instead of Monday, there'd maybe be a chance. But no, less than 24 hours after the trade, it's just it takes a day to get the physicals going. So, and then obviously no Fox, he's not on their team anymore. I mean, they also traded away Kevin Huerter and Jordan McLaughlin. They don't really even have a point guard on the roster,
right,
as far as I know. So that kind of the Wolves were shorthanded yesterday, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But it does give the Wolves an opportunity, even if the Wolves are missing. Ant and Nas are both questionable. We'll see if either or both of those guys can play. I will say it's probably good to see Nas questionable and not just straight out. So we'll get word on what's going on with Nas. But yeah, the Wolves are probably going to get a much lighter Kings team than they saw the 3 previous times this season. And then the game after that is against the Bulls. And so that would be the question of, are the Bulls guys ready? Again, LaVine's not on the team anymore. But like Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Huerter, those guys could theoretically be ready. I don't know what the Bulls' appetite is to win basketball games right now, but certainly you would want that to be a game that you win, just given where the Bulls are at. And then you go against Houston and Portland to finish off this 5-game homestand. But yeah, we can kind of transition, unless you had more about that trade, we can kind of transition to Wolves talk. I wrote down a whole outline. I think largely just going to kind of scrap it, just because we spent 45 minutes talking about one insane trade and then another just kind of a big trade, but certainly was expected. But yeah, we can kind of talk about the Wolves did lose to the Washington Wizards. They broke their 16-game homestand or losing streak. The Wizards had not won a road game since their first road game of the season. They lost 20 straight on the road. And the Wolves lose. And so on the surface, you see that, and it's doomsday. And when you dig into it more, and I wrote about this in the recap for that game, it's not a game. It stinks to lose that game because even no matter what roster you roll out there, you should be able to beat the Wizards, and they didn't. And you lose a game in the standings because you lost to the Wizards and everyone else beat them. So that aspect of it is bad. But as far as like projecting out to the future, I have a hard time taking away anything like that. The Wolves were missing 3 of their top 4 scorers coming into the game. Ant out with an illness. Randall's going to be out almost certainly through the All-Star break, and DiVincenzo is reevaluated after the All-Star break. And then they lost Nas late in the game. So down the stretch of the game where they clearly ran out of gas, they were missing their top 4 scorers. Ultimately, almost every team in the NBA missing their top 4 scorers is going to struggle to beat anyone, including the Washington Wizards. I don't think, there's a difference between guys that are bad, aren't good at shooting, but know they have to shoot, like Kuzma and Jordan Poole. Then he's not bad at shooting. And then there's just guys like Joe Ingles is playing major minutes in a game. It's just, I think you want to say this guy is falling with the Wizards loss. I just don't see it. It's sad, but they were just missing a bunch of guys, and then they got hit with the shooting variance night. Kyle Kuzma goes off. They have another 20% 3-point shooter, hits a bunch of threes. So it's it was just one of those nights where everything went against them. And it still stinks because against the Wizards, everything going against you just makes it a 50-50 proposition. If you play a mediocre team and everything goes against you, you lose by a bunch. Well, the Wolves still had a shot in the air as the buzzer went off to win the game. So it stinks, but I don't know. I have a hard time taking away anything more than shrugging the shoulders. And and maybe the only takeaway is the Wolves might be dealing with some injuries moving forward, but maybe not. Maybe Ant and Nas are back on Monday, and that's all gone. What do you agree with me, or am I being lame and I should be killing them for losing to the Wizards?
No, I agree with you. I mean, it's more embarrassing from a headline standpoint than anything. It's oh, Wolves, break their 16-game losing streak to the Wolves. Aha, okay, yeah, get your jokes off. That's fine. But that said, I mean, yes, of course, like you said, the standings, it's really tight, so those do matter. But if anything, the thing that hurts the most is the real life consequences of injuries mounting.
Yep.
Nas hurting himself. I mean, he's been battling through a couple things as well. I think it was a shoulder thing at one point, and then now it's his finger. Um, hopefully that doesn't linger. Like you said earlier, he's listed as questionable, so that's really good to see. But then Ant, like you said, Ant should be back, and uh, I think the most painful thing of this loss is that Nas misses multiple games, that we're missing valuable time to see him playing with the rest of the starters minus Dante,
Yep.
right? Because that's really what we want to see right now. And so that hurts. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say that was the worst loss of the season for the Wolves. I mean,
No,
it was very embarrassing of a loss, and they should take it personally. Quite frankly, I mean, I think that they didn't play with terrible energy. I think they should have did a little bit more to make Kyle Kuzma's life a little bit tougher, because they kind
for
of let
sure.
him get off like whatever he wanted to. That got him in rhythm, and he's one of those rhythm players where once every 20 games he's going to play like this. He's going to play like NBA championship Kyle Kuzma. Maybe he was motivated by the upcoming trade that no one knew about, but he did. He
I
was like,
think they saw an opportunity to end their losing streak and they tried to
Sure,
take it.
sure,
So I don't think
sure.
like they didn't play like the worst team in NBA history. So
Right,
I have a hard time just getting up in arms about it.
yeah.
But ultimately you lost to the Wizards. So if you want to make fun of them, I got nothing to dissuade you from that.
They're totally allowed to do that, and like I would rather just move on from that game, because again, this wasn't our regular team that Ant played like crap, and Julius played like crap, and they lost. Like no, it was just it was what it was. We'll move on, and so. Yeah, I mean, hopefully take advantage of the upcoming schedule, like you said, the Kings and the Bulls, and they have a somewhat light schedule this week. So in terms of difficulty,
Yep, absolutely. And you just hope that they can grab this win against a Sacramento organization that's going through it right now. And the Bulls just traded, I don't know, is LaVine their best player? Probably. So like,
right.
or he's not anymore. He's not on their team.
Right.
But yeah, I guess we can kind of move into Apex Alpha. Mine was Jalen Clark, mostly for the Phoenix and Utah games. I thought just fantastic. I think it's very clear that he's going to be a very good defensive player. The offense will come, and that will kind of determine where he is in terms of, is he a fringe rotation player or a solid like Nikhil-like rotation player, is whether he can get either a three-point shot or just some semblance of offensive game, because the defense is there. And I think he was very valuable for them in the Phoenix and Utah games, less so in Washington, but that kind of makes sense given they had a lot fewer offensive talent around him. So, Jalen Clark thought was just it was good for him, good for the team, but good for him personally after going through the Achilles stuff. Well, how about you?
Shout out Jalen Clark. I mean, you definitely have to give the rookie his flowers for these last couple games here. I did a little bit of just like quick review of Jalen Clark after we drafted him in summer 2023, and everything you saw from his college tape translated beautifully to this action. And I've been watching him in the G League as well too, where that the hounding of the ball, the focus that he has, the way that he never takes any plays off, is willing to take on any challenge. So love to see that big Jalen Clark guy. So yeah, happy to see that. My Apex Alpha of the week though this week is going to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. A lot of people might remember him just for missing that game winner against Washington. He maybe took a lot of shots that he probably isn't used to taking field goal attempts, just because again who was on the court out there. But he played through a really scary looking injury at the start of last week against the Atlanta Hawks, where turned out to just be kind of a stinger to his calf area, to his leg, and he was kind of helped off the court. But then right after that game, not only was he not on the injury report, but for the next 3 games, he played 36 minutes, like on average for the next 3 games. So he was out there in absence of the other starters. He had back-to-back 5 3-point made games, including a season best 23-point spurt against the Phoenix Suns. And he was huge, for us in that game to be able to pull it out. And so love to see that. I love to see that confidence. I mean, he's been a bit of a shooting slump recently. And so love to see that kind of course correcting. And so, yeah, I mean, Nickeil really has that opportunity to be like, yo, you're up for a new contract at the end of this offseason. We're short guys, so let's step up. And he really did that. So I'm really proud of Nickeil for his play this week.
Yeah, he was fantastic in the road trip, and good to see him back. He kind of had some struggles there, probably just mostly shooting, but they're going to need him with DiVincenzo out and Rob Dillingham's play kind of being up and down as 19-year-old rookies do. Good to see him. Good to see him play well again. Moving on, Prey of the Week. This feels like the same conversation we had last week. I put down the Phoenix Suns. They clearly just are better than that team. They have their number. everything Phoenix tries to do, the Wolves just kind of do it better. It was just really fun seeing them take it to Phoenix again. Even like they're not even healthy. Mike didn't play in that game, right? It's just they got Phoenix's number. That's just not really a team I fear from a Wolves perspective. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets definitely hate seeing Anthony Edwards show up anytime on the court. I will say Mike Conley did play against the Suns. He played 30 minutes, but he was a -4, so it wasn't his best game. But that said, yeah, I mean, my prey of the week in this similar vein is Devin Booker. Of course, he had a great shooting night, as he often does. He had an efficient 28-point night, shooting really well from the field, but he also had a career high 9 turnovers that game. So he definitely had a hard time trying to figure out this Wolves defense like he did in the playoffs last year. And not only that, but he continued to get trash talked by both Ant and Jaden. Ant was yelling at him.
Man.
Yeah. And Jaden was going at him. Even at the end of the game, he was still chirping at him all the way. And I think at some point, when Jaden got that tee, or I think he got thrown out at the end of the game, it was like a single tee toss where he just stuck his finger in his head. At first, it looked like he just kind of poked him in the head. That was pretty funny.
A wet willy.
Yeah, but
almost.
It looked like a wet willy almost. Yeah, where you just kind of like bam right in the ear. That's such a disrespectful way to do it, and it's just so funny coming from Jaden, because Jaden's always like ready to pop off. Like he's ready to go. Like he'll throw down with Klay Thompson. He'll throw down with Jeremy Sohan, whoever it is. Like he's always ready to go. And so, but just I mean, Devin Booker continues to show while he'll always be the bridesmaid and never the bride to Anthony Edwards as the best two-way shooting guard in the league for the foreseeable future. I don't know if there's any type of that. I mean, Ant talked about in the post game that him and Book, they have a decent relationship. He didn't really know him, didn't really like him before, but during the Summer Olympics, they got to know each other, and it was cool. But he clearly takes that challenge on head on and really has a little bit extra umph when he's going against Book there. So yeah, Devin Booker, my prey of the week.
Jaden had it was in the locker room after the Atlanta game, where that was the game where Rudy and who was the center they had a dust up with?
Yeah, was it Okongwu?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Someone asked Jaden, like, "Oh, I've never seen you smile so big," and he says something to the effect of, "Well, you guys only see me here. You never see me at home." So apparently, Jaden's asserting that at home he's always smiling.
He's got the good vibes with his kid at home. So
there you go.
There you go.
That makes sense. But yeah, I think we can kind of close out this one. Not very much Wolves talk going on. I think that's kind of the state of it right now. Maybe just we didn't want to revisit that Wizards game too long. But yeah, my 2 words to kind of close this out. Still confused. The Mavericks traded Luka Doncic. I don't get it. I will never get it. The explanation the GM gave today continues to make less sense. I thought he did a very poor job of, like, fans are hurt. Like,
right.
Whether you can, if he thinks this is the best way forward and even a no-brainer, whatever confidence he has in it, that's fine. I mean, I disagree with you, but we all disagree with a lot of people. Your job going up there, you have to have a better sense of where your fan base is at. Someone's got to, for him to go up there and to just like be like, yeah, my owner, when I brought it to him, was joking. Like, he thought I was kidding. Like, why? Like, you gotta, and I'm kind of taking this from the DLS Mavs podcast. One of their hosts said what I'm about to say here is that, like, you got to go up there and be like, hey, I understand people are hurting, but like, I'm asking for your trust in this and blah, blah, like, reassure the fan base. To a certain extent, the Wolves did that after the Cat trade. They acknowledged that the how tough it was, and they said, hey, this is what we thought was the best way forward. Like, you got to give, someone with the organization has to give that to the fans. And you saw it, like, the Mavs fans were out there throwing a funeral outside the arena today. I don't know if you saw that. Like,
it's tough.
It's somewhat like someone with that organization has to do some sort of fan outreach, because, like, even if you believe it's the right way forward, like you hurt a bunch of your fan base. You got to it like that has to matter. Like as a business, as a sports team, that has to matter. And the trade aside, like you got to do something to win your fans back because, woof.
Yeah, they posted something about 4 hours ago here, or 5 hours ago. I'm looking on their Instagram on Dallas Mavs, and they just have a picture, a graphic of him smiling and him in all these different jerseys, and it says, "Thank you, Luka Doncic, for being one of the greatest Dallas Mavericks ever to wear this jersey. Thank you for playing with joy and competitiveness beyond compare. Thank you for the Magic 77." That was it. That was all he got.
He's the second greatest Maverick ever, and probably was a title away from being first. I mean,
yeah,
the Dirk is one of the exact matter doesn't number top 40, top 30, top 25
right.
player ever. Luka has that ceiling for you. So for you to trade him when he had no interest in leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I get it. Like the highlight packages and the tributes is going to take time. But I mean, even you think about, for me, I took that cat trade pretty hard, and even at least you heard immediately the reports like Tim Connolly went to Cat's house and sat down and told him before the news broke, right? And according to all reports here, Luka had no idea, and they just threw him away like just a piece of garbage. Like it was, hey, thanks for helping us get there, but we'd rather take this about to be 32-year-old broken down body center who might be able to help us get to the second or third round this year. That's a bad look. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm confused as well too. But I will say this though, in the words of that, in the same vein, I mean, my two words is that karma sucks. I mean, even for the Mavs, Luka is probably going to score 77 points on the Mavericks the next time the Lakers show up there. Like there's no way he's not going to take this personally. I mean, you've seen Luka as a guy that he plays with his emotions on his sleeve for better or worse, and he's a guy that will take matchups, very personally. So, yeah, the karma's a comeback, I think, for the Mavs, and for at least for the ownership, at least. So they're going to see that. But for the Wolves, though, I mean, karma sucks because for the majority of the first half of the season, we just kept talking about how lucky the Wolves have been from a health standpoint. One of the healthiest, teams ever. We knew that was just, a couple cogs away that was going to be our turn, and now it is. Now we've lost Julius Randle for who knows how long. Dante hopefully will be back this season. Still not sure. Mike is again older, so he's going to have to sit out games here and there like he did recently. And Nas now is hurt, and there's a illness that's going around the league right now where a lot of people are just missing games. So again, hopefully this is a worst of it. Knock on wood. But yeah, karma sucks. That it's finally our turn to be hurt. Thankfully, it is coming at a point where our schedule is a little bit lighter, but as you saw on Saturday, anything can still happen no matter who you're playing against. So,
yep, and that actually was my biggest takeaway from the Wizards game. It was not even from that game. It's just like the reason why that Wizards loss is so frustrating is because you can certainly complain about the injuries, and those are the biggest reason the Wolves lost that game, but losing that game is why losing the games earlier when you were fully healthy, why those are so tough now. Because they were 21-19 when Dante got hurt. So you played the first 40 games of the season, basically, other than Mike missing a game or two here, you had every single person and you could only go 2 games above 500. Like that's where this hurts because now you are missing guys and you didn't bank those wins like other teams do. They played an Atlanta team. Obviously they beat them, but like they played an Atlanta team that didn't have anyone. They played like everyone goes through injuries, and so for you not to be able to kind of bank wins when you didn't have your own, I think is where the Wizards loss becomes most costly.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Leo, got anything else after this?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the schedule. I mean, just to recap for y'all, we got coming up this week. As you're listening to this, is probably Monday morning. The Wolves have the Kings, as we talked about. Then they have a day off before they get to host the Bulls in town on Wednesday, and that's the first of a back-to-back against the Rockets on Thursday. And then they get a one-day break before they host the Blazers on Saturday. So it will be an extremely busy week for them as they're wrapping up towards the All-Star break. So they'll have 4 games in 6 nights here. Now, I will say, obviously, we talked about the Kings and the Bulls. The Rockets will surely be the toughest probably on their schedule there, but they're also dealing with some injury issues as well, too. The Rockets, Alperen Şengün, who's an all-star this year, is battling a calf contusion that's held him out of the last 2 games, which they lost. And Fred VanVleet had to lead the last game with a sprained ankle as well too. So they also have a really, really tough schedule this week with similar, I think, 4 games and 6 nights there. So they got a lot going on. But yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good week for the Wolves. And luckily, the magnifying glass is not on the Wolves right now, and Julius Randle and their injuries and losing to Wizards. There's other focuses that NBA is looking at right now.
Yep. The other thing is the trade deadline is Thursday. So if the Rockets do make a trade for Jimmy Butler that day, that'll be another situation where the Wolves are playing a shorthanded team with whoever goes out from Houston. Especially with Randall hurt now, I really don't expect the Wolves to make a major move. They'll probably make a Monte Morris level trade, especially if they continue to see big injuries. That'd probably be something good to shore up, would be to get another big in here. But I don't expect
Bruce Brown. You heard it here first.
I would say I don't expect them to make a trade, but I didn't expect Luka Doncic to be traded. So in that sense, anything is possible. But yeah, I will have Andrew Carlson from Canis Hoopus on Friday. I'm heading out to Arizona on vacation. So he'll be covering the rest of the Wolves. I got the Kings game, but Andrew will be covering the rest of this homestand. So we'll have him on to talk about that back-to-back, as well as whatever happens with the trade deadline. So we'll see you guys then, and then Leo and I will be back early next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks for listening. Get home. Drive safe.
Go Wolves.
Ayoo!